What's up, LEGO fans? I'm James May, but not that James May, LEGO designer turned AFOL, and this is Tubeside, show where we take a sneak peek underneath the brick to see how LEGO sets are made. Today we're going to be looking at one of my favourite sets that I've designed, and my only LEGO friend set, well, the only one that came in a box, Andrea's Theatre School. I joined the LEGO Friends team back in 2020 after my time in Creator and Ideas. At first, I was in charge of making the polybags and magazine models for that year, but after that, we had our big project to work on. This was going to be the final wave of the old Friends crew before the reboot. Each of the friends were going to go their separate ways to pursue their passion. For Andrea, this was music and performing. So for each of the friends, we were exploring concepts of where in the world they could go to do this. I don't think I can go into details of what the other options were, but the conclusion that we came to for Andrea was the theatre, and specifically, the West End. Me and Joel Baker came up with the original sketch model, which I then took to the next phase. Okay, so literally the first thing I did when I heard that I was working in a theatre was dress up a mini doll as a tree. I knew whatever form the model takes, I had to have that in. The next thing I did, and what I should have started on was, as usual, online research. I looked up London West End architecture, as well as common features of theatres both front and backstage. I was focused on having the contrast of the beautiful Victorian architecture outside, the warm, luxurious theatre interior inside, and the stark industrial backstage. So as a kid, I did a little bit of theatre, and as an adult, I've been to a few shows, but I made sure to go around the office and ask all the theatre kids, like, what little details that I should put in to make sure that this set is, like, as authentic as possible, and to make sure that this was a dream LEGO set for theatre kids. The other features we knew we wanted was a bunch of props and scenery, different backgrounds, a trapdoor, and a whole bunch of gold detail. We wanted this set not only to be used to play out Andrea going to theatre school and to act that out, but we wanted this to be fully functional, where you can invite your friends and family to watch mini productions with them on the audience side and you backstage. The first iteration of the model had a classic dollhouse design. We had the front facade of the building and spin it round, and there's a cross section of the interior to play with on the back. The problem with the theatre is there's 3 separate layers to the play. So if we went with this design, you would spin the model around and you'd only have the front of the stage. Or you could do a version where it's only the front and backstage without an exterior. I was determined to have all 3. We needed the exterior to show that it's not Heart Lake City, and in order to properly roleplay as a theatre, you need to get behind the model and perform to an audience. So I came up with this hinge design which gives you all 3 spaces accessible to fully immerse yourself in the play. The opening also creates a sense of enclosed space, with the boxes at angles, and gives you the negative space on the ground to position the seats and other small builds where you want. For the backgrounds, we were wanting them to be swapped, and we were originally thinking for big foils of textiles, but this was at the height of dots, so this inspired us to make them on 16 by 16 plates. It's far more LEGO DNA that way. The 2 backdrops were picked due to them being 2 common settings for plays and nicely juxtaposed each other. Although we denied the textile team that to work on, we still managed to collaborate with them on the curtains. It was difficult making the curtain mechanisms have maximum amount of travel while keeping the model stable, as it's being built on very thin wall sections. As a kid, I kind of had this pet peeve where if there's any sort of storage in a toy, it would contain the minimum amount of things needed to consider it full. This is really hard to do in this tiny window. You can see I'm doing quotes, right? For instance, a treasure chest would have 1, maybe 2 coins or gems inside. So in this model, where a lot of it was dedicated to storage, I made sure to cram it with as many props as possible. Under the stage is packed, and every side stage has accessories, and the treasure chest is so full, you can't even close it. A lot of time was dedicated to picking accessories that would let you play out famous scenes from famous plays and musicals, a lot of which I can't say for copyright reasons, but you can probably make good guesses. I wanted to mix of modern medieval things to match the backgrounds. There's also a bit of debate over the minifigure skull for Hamlet, as technically it's for a minifigure, not a mini doll, but in my headcanon, they just have one of those LEGO Halloween buckets as a prop skull. The Technic beams here was actually initially put in as a structural feature, as these thin wall sections had to be locked in, but it ended up being perfect as rigging for you to put on more lights. For the floor outside, it was controversial that I made the sidewalk dark grey. I did it to match a London sidewalk that had just been rained on, but for a Friends model, this was unheard of. But in the context of them no longer being in Heart Lake City, this made it more important to show the contrast of them being somewhere abroad. I also put an oldie-timey lamppost there if you want to do some singing while in the rain. The posters were there to put some cheeky wee Easter eggs in. We have the elves reference here, another classic castle reference here, and this is a reference to Heartmore, a musical featured in the TV show. The TB on the postbox is a reference to Toby Brown, the graphic designer. The name of the theatre was chosen because there's a lot of theatres with assembly in the name, so it just made sense since, you know, you assemble it like. So despite me insisting that the model is set in London and therefore should have British spelling, they still called it theatre rather than theatre in the product name. So I wrote this script and then realised now that I'm saying out loud that it's actually kind of hard to visualize what I mean with the different spellings unless it's written down, but you get what I mean. I actually got to present this model on the 2022 LEGO Con. It was super scary having all those people watching me, except for M&R Productions who were doing push-ups at the time. But it was great to spend half of my allotted time talking about a Time Cruisers reference hidden in the model, which I didn't even show. Actually, Fen, the manager on the stage with me, afterwards asked me, "So, when are you going to tell me you hid that reference in the model?" Whoops. Also, just to confirm, this was unrelated to the Muppets. I had no idea that that was happening until it was announced. I would say out of all the toys I've designed, this is the one I'm most proud of. This is where I got the freedom to add a bunch of functions, a bunch of roleplay options, a bunch of little details, a bunch of cheeky wee Easter eggs, and at the end of it, I got to meet Jeff Winger. Anything that I didn't manage to get in, I'm hoping that what is there inspires kids to make their own props so that they can put on their own shows. The big reveal of the folding function in the curtains is a big part of the wow factor of the model, and when you open it up, it gives a really good size impression. It makes it a good model to put on your shelf, as you don't have to take it off to spin it around and see the interior. This is also where I felt I'd earned my spot on the design team. Coming into LEGO Friends and being trusted to deliver solo on the highest price point of that wave was a big responsibility, but without going too far at my own assembly theatre, I think I pulled it off pretty well. So, I hope you liked this friendly peek at the Tubeside of another LEGO set. Let me know down in the comments if you got any other questions about this model and which LEGO set you want me to talk about next. I'll leave a link below to my brickography. So there. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.